Yes, hello there. Thank you for clicking on this video. Today I'm going to rank all of the vehicles in Battlefield 4, and there's a lot of them. So sit back, relax, and grab a packet of twisties and tactically make your way through them using your mouth utensils. Now, I'm sorry to say, but we're going to start the bottom off with the jet ski. This would be a great vehicle, but unfortunately the water physics in Battlefield 4 are a bit scat, so it can be really annoying to control at some points, especially on Paracel Storm, when the storm blows in and the waves are just like... Of course, you can do some damage with the jet ski and some trusty C4 or slams, but as I said, the handling is quite poor, so it makes it far easier for other boats to destroy you and get close. A lot of people might not know this, but you can actually eject off the back of attack boats with the jet ski. This is super helpful when a level 140 attack jet main that's frothing at the sight of a vulnerable boat has a go at you. So some extra points for that, but also it's kind of just more of an attack boat feature. So the MRAP is next, and I put this low because despite its armored protection, this thing is an RPG magnet. Pair this with the fact that it has the slowest acceleration I've ever seen. It's a recipe for a quick death. It does fit a fair few passengers, but there are other transport vehicles that do that a lot better and safer. Fun fact, you can destroy the back door with explosives and expose anyone inside to small arms fire, so keep that in mind. Next we have the quad bike, which is the jet ski of the land. It's simply a lot faster and more agile than the jet ski, so using C4 is a lot easier. You and your passenger are quite exposed though, so be careful. I will point out that its smaller size and speed makes the quad bike an excellent option to flank the enemy and sneakily capture unguarded points. Oh shit. Also, I'd like to point out that I was looking through all the vehicles on the Battlefield 4 wiki, and apparently there's a Ford Mondeo in the game, and I think it's referring to the campaign, but I thought that was just funny. It's a real shame to do this, but my beloved bang truck, yes, the M142 rocket truck, isn't the best vehicle in the game. It doesn't really serve any purpose besides camping at the back of the map and getting 3 kills per hour. I've only really put it higher than some of the other vehicles because it's funny. You can really get under people's skin and sit back and click on your iPad, and it's just really annoying. There's a very high chance that you will be hunted down and killed immediately though. It seems Battlefield 4 players have a strict no bang truck policy, so take from that what you will. I've gone with the Amtrak next. Now we're getting into some solid vehicles. This one can be hit or miss. If used well, it's brilliant. If not, it also comes equipped with a grenade launcher and machine gun. They're not really going to do too much damage to the enemy as it's more for support, but it does get the job done. It can also go on land and in water, which makes it one of the more versatile vehicles in the game. Do keep in mind that it's extremely slow, and if you position yourself incorrectly, it's certain death. The strongest part of this vehicle, however, is the mobile spawn point. On some game modes, like Rush especially, the Amtrak can be really powerful if parked in the right area. Now we have one of the classics, an iconic Battlefield vehicle, the Jeep, the C4 Jeep. I don't really have to say much on this, to be honest. There's just something about it, and it still remains to be one of the best C4 delivery systems in Battlefield to this day. The rib boat is good, that's why it's next. The main reason for this is the minigun attached to the front. This weapon is really powerful in Battlefield 4, especially against air vehicles. If you communicate well with your driver or gunner, this boat can be a formidable weapon. I do see a lot of people sitting back and still in the gunner position with no driver. This may work for 1 or 2 kills, but you're probably going to get sniped. Up next I have the first of the tanky vehicles, the BTRs. The BTR is best used against infantry, but can hold its own against other vehicles, depending on your loadout. For protection from tanks and helis, you definitely want the tow missile, APS, and the thoughts and prayers of your teammates. Otherwise, the main cannon is pretty great against infantry. The BTRs also hold 6 players and have speed, so they make for decent support vehicles. It also has a gunner position, which will definitely help you out against pesky supports and recons running at you with C4. For the gunner positions on all tanks, I would always recommend incendiary grenades as a secondary. It's great for fighting and flushing out infantry from cover. Also take the thermal optics. The attack boat is a tough one. I was contemplating putting it below the BTR, but I remembered one thing about it that gives it the edge. it has TV missiles. Especially on PC, TV missiles are very powerful. On console, not so much because the controls suck and I'm bad at the game. You fucking But if you're good, well then you're good. Also, I find the attack boat better against air vehicles, largely because of the burst rounds, which I'd highly recommend taking if you haven't already. You do want to be careful against engineers and tanks. Sometimes you get stuck in the open water and the boat is quite slow and gets immobilized quite hard when a well-placed rocket hits you. So you definitely need engineers repairing you on the back. As I mentioned before, you can eject yourself off the back of the boat if you find yourself in a scrap against someone who owns a gaming chair. Overall though, very good. Next we got the Big Choppy, the transport heli. It holds 6 passengers and is undoubtedly the best transport vehicle in the game. You can move friendlies to flags a lot faster and more efficiently. It has 2 miniguns, which when used together will absolutely shred other air vehicles and infantry. More often than not, the person that's flying will be unable to make it out of their spawn without immediately crashing. It's best to use this with your squad and communicate rather than letting some random fly. Even a team of 3 with 2 gunners and 1 pilot that are working well together can make a huge difference in a match with the transport heli. Another bonus is that unlike the scout or attack helicopters, the transport can take 2 hits from rockets, which makes up for its slower speed. Love it. Unfortunately, I have to put the AA next. As much as I hate it, it's a very strong vehicle. Any of the main rounds will dispatch of air vehicles quite quickly if you lead your shots well. In fact, the 30mm rounds will do a good amount of damage to tanks as well. It also has a range of missiles that can be used to make destroying air vehicles even easier. Less experienced pilots will really struggle against one of these, especially if it's sitting in spawn. Personally, I like to run the Zuni rockets as my secondary. This is because I like to push up a little bit more than most, and they provide some good protection against other tanks. The stealth jet, she's quick mate. Now I will note that I'm not an insanely good pilot, especially with the jets, so keep that in mind. From what I've experienced, the stealth jet works best for air-to-air, and in fact is probably best at it. It has the best turning ability out of the 2 jets, and is a lot faster with its afterburners, which is very useful for escaping lock-ons. 9 times out of 10, the stealth jet will win a dogfight against the attack jet. However, because it's largely restricted to the air, the lack of ground presence makes it lower than the attack jet. It's harder to farm up with the stealth jet. Because of this, I usually run the laser guided missiles, and they are also pretty noob friendly, so if you're new to the game, I'd recommend using those, they'll help you out. If you're a jet veteran though, leave a comment below with your recommendations for each jet. I picked the Scout Heli next. This thing handles really well and is a lot of fun to fly. Good pilots will usually rack up a lot of kills with the Scout Heli, especially if the engineers are repairing them the entire time. Its agility helps for dodging rockets and flying in and out of cover to avoid lock-ons. In terms of loadout, you definitely want to take the miniguns as they are best for fighting other air vehicles and are also really good at killing infantry too if you're accurate. This will allow you to take air-to-ground missiles, which will help your team out with some of the tanks on the map. For newer players, however, I would recommend grinding to unlock the 25mm cannons. They have decent splash damage and will help you get some easy infantry kills. They're not as good as the miniguns against air vehicles though, so be careful with that. I'd also run the air-to-air missiles to help you get some mobility hits and damage on other air vehicles. Next is the attack jet. Yes, I know. Here's why it's not my top pick. I find that despite the huge amount of kill potential this vehicle has, it doesn't have as much of an impact on the match, objective-wise, as my top picks. Even with the level 140 farming up players on Paracel Storm, your team should still be able to win the match, as long as there are a few good vehicle players that manage to avoid being destroyed. In terms of my loadout, I find that the JDAMs are the best secondary. They're great for finishing off tanks and boats after a strafing run. Flares and ECMs are simply preference for me though, although I do find the ECM typically works better as it keeps you off the radar. But again, for those jet pros, let us know your loadout in the comments. Alright, the final vehicles, let's go. I've gone with the MBT next. I find that it has a huge impact on each match and is excellent at capturing flags. If you work well with your gunner and peek corners and lanes at the right time, you'll be unstoppable. It's pretty easy to take out helis and jets with the main cannon too, as long as it's not Siege of Shanghai. Typically I run the standard AP rounds paired with the HMG, which is great at taking out infantry, especially if you get headshots. Some people like to run the Sabo rounds as the secondary, however, I'd only recommend this if you're good at positioning yourself. otherwise infantry players can become an issue in numbers. This ranking doesn't really include the hover tank, by the way. The hover tank is a bit of a gimmick and is quite annoying to use. It goes well on water though, ooh. But yeah, I love the MBT. Okay, what else but the attack heli? It just is good, isn't it? If you have good players in the attack heli, then you will more than likely win the match. The gunning position is stupidly powerful, especially with the INRV optic. Not only do you have a laser beam of a 30mm cannon, they also have a TV missile thrown in there as well. Right, and then the pilot has Zuni missiles and a tow launcher, or lock-on missiles. What more do you need? I'm sure most of you watching this video have been farmed up by attack heli players on Siege with Shanghai at some point during your playtime. It's such a fun vehicle and stupidly powerful, but it's not actually the best. The best vehicle in the game is the skid loader. That's right, the goat loader. The most feared and most powerful vehicle to ever grace the game of Battlefield. That's actually why I couldn't find any servers running it on Gulf of Oman. Everyone's too scared. Yep, that's why. That's all for today though. If you liked the video, don't forget to SHAPscribe and let me know what you want to see next. Okay, see ya.